The average teen spends 7 hours a day on their smartphones, not counting schoolwork. This statistic comes from the nonprofit Common Sense Media from 2019. That number alone is staggering, but it raises a deeper question. How does technology, specifically social media, affect the youth, their mental health, and their behavior? For the first time in history, an entire generation is being raised almost completely on technology, and is becoming completely depending on it as they grow up. Technology has become a part of our identity, shaping how we think, behave, and feel. So let's take a deeper dive into what technology and social media is really all about in this day and age, and find the truth of it all, divided into four main sections: benefits and downsides, the behavioral component, positive versus negative technology, and healthy use and balance. Let's begin. Technology has many pros and cons. On the positive side, benefits include improved communication, allowing people to text, call, and keep connected with their loved ones, bolstering relationships and a sense of security. It also provides access to information via search engines like Google, creativity and expression through creative tools and digital platforms. Lastly, more efficient education, aiding schools as well as individual education. However, on the other hand, downsides include addiction to technology and all of its consequences, self-esteem issues, anxiety and depression, specifically as a result of social media and the culture around it. There's also reduced social interaction, as some opt to spend time on their technology over face-to-face social interaction. And lastly, privacy risks are relevant, as hackers are present and information and important private information is increasingly stored online, vulnerable to hacking or misuse. The relationship between technology and behavior is a very interconnected one. Every action becomes a habit, and over time, those habits start to affect us and define us. Recent research coming from a 2023 study led by Xinxin Zhu of Yale University shows that these digital patterns begin forming early and can influence us in the long term. Zhu and his associates tracked adolescents across several years and found that consistent high levels of screen time during teenage years predicted higher risk of anxiety, depression, and impulsive behaviors in adulthood. The way that kids interact with their screens set the stage for how they handle stress and regulate emotions as they grow up. Now this connection becomes full circle. A study from 2020 led by researcher Nico Manico discovered that pre-existing behavioral traits found in children predicted screen use habits later in life. Young children and teenagers with behavioral issues such as hyperactivity and distractibility turn into teenagers and adults who use their phones more often and more negatively. This means it is important for those who have ADD or ADHD to be more careful with their cellular use. This study showcased a reciprocal effect with what Zhu had researched, creating an interchangeable cycle where early screen use habits impact later behavioral traits, and vice versa, where early behavioral traits impact later screen use habits. This cycle reveals that technology and behavior not only influence one another, but continually reinforce one another over time. This is why it is crucial to take note of the behavioral component when dealing with technology in teenagers, and shows us why the effects of digital use are so complex. It's not just about the number of hours spent on the screen, but instead it's about how the technology interacts with us personally. Some adolescents may develop healthier habits and better social connections through their digital use, while others may fall into patterns that reinforce anxiety, depression, or social withdrawal. Now we must ask ourselves the question, what separates the two? Why do some teens benefit from their screen time, while others get trapped in its negative effects? The answer lies in how and why technology is used, not just how much. This leads us to examine the positive and negative types of technology. Technology cannot be definitively pinned as simply good or bad. It's both. There are good kinds of technology and there are bad kinds of technology. Beneficial types of technology include the following: communication and connection apps like FaceTime, Snapchat, and Messages, education and learning services such as Khan Academy, Duolingo, and YouTube, creativity and expression sites such as TikTok, Instagram Reels, CapCut, and Canva, and health and well-being programs such as Headspace, Stoic, and BetterHelp. Negative types of technology include the following: social comparison through following influencers on apps like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, addiction and overuse of short-form scrolling apps like TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts, as well as gaming platforms such as Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam. Excessive entertainment apps such as YouTube and Netflix, which promote escapism and avoidance, and privacy and safety risks, often seen through Life360, Snapchat Maps, and Instagram Stories. Now, what are the true impacts of these two opposing kinds of technology? In 2020, researchers Candace Odgers and Michaeline Jensen reviewed over a decade of studies exploring how digital technology use impacts adolescent mental health, and what types of technology were positive and what type of technology were negative for teenagers and their development. Their research revealed that in a digital age, moderate, purposeful, and socially connected technology use can actually support well-being. In these cases, technology becomes a tool for connection, learning, and personal growth. But on the flip side, Odgers and Jensen also emphasized that not all screen time is equal, and when technology use becomes excessive, isolating, or emotionally driven, the effects shift dramatically. Teens who scroll social media for hours comparing themselves to others often experience lower self-esteem and increased anxiety, and sometimes make them feel inferior or inadequate. Overuse of social media can also disrupt sleep, concentration, and even social skills. For some, social media eventually becomes a coping mechanism, and they use it as a way to escape negative emotions, a habit that can deepen feelings of loneliness and depression over time. In 2014, using survey data from thousands of adolescents, researcher Ramin Mojtabai and his associates backed up the previous research on the negativity of technology. They found a strong correlation between problematic social media use and higher levels of anxiety, depression, and attention issues in adolescents. Excessive reliance on online validation can create emotional fragility. Importantly, however, they found that strong family support and positive school connections appear to reduce these risks. These findings revealed that the real issue isn't simply how much technology teens use, but what sort of technology they use. The quality and context are more important variables to consider. Technology itself isn't the villain, but it's the relationship that we build with it that determines its impact. This brings up an essential question. What does healthy technology use actually look like, and how can one find balance? Finding balance doesn't mean cutting off technology altogether. It means learning how to use it mindfully, with intention and self-awareness. So let's explore practical ways to find and maintain this balance. Let's quickly look at a piece of research on this topic. In 2019, using data to analyze the relationship between screen time and mental health of adolescents, researchers Andrew Przybylski and Netta Weinstein found that moderate levels of screen time were not necessarily harmful, while both excessive and minimal use were linked to lower well-being. This thesis proved that technology use falls on a bell curve for normal distribution, and that there is a desired Goldilocks zone of technology use. It is generally defined that a low-risk zone is less than 4 hours a day, a high-risk zone is 4 to 7 hours, and overuse is defined as over 7 hours a day. Now, mindful digital habits and self-awareness are the key to keeping mental health in check. This includes setting intentional screen time limits, silencing notifications during study hours, and curating online spaces to reflect positivity rather than comparison. There are also digital tools that can block distracting or harmful apps. Another powerful approach is the digital detox, a method where a person temporarily steps away from social media or screens to reset one's mental state, allowing more healthy use when they come back. This can be a short break. Ultimately, healthy technology use is about redefining the relationship between humans and their screens, creating boundaries instead of dependence. When used mindfully, technology doesn't have to be an obstacle to mental wellness. It'll actually enhance it. The goal isn't disconnection, but intentional connection to people and to purpose. Technology, and especially social media, has become one of the most prominent forces shaping the mental health and behavior of today's youth. Its influence isn't purely positive or negative, it is based on how we use it. When approached with purpose and balance, technology can strengthen relationships, inspire creativity, and provide emotional support. But when it becomes excessive, isolating, or driven by comparison, it can fuel anxiety, depression, and behavioral instability. Ultimately, social media doesn't just affect young people's minds, it molds their habits, emotions, and sense of self, for better or for worse. Technology is one of the most powerful tools humanity has ever created, but tools don't control us unless we let them. It should connect us, not control us. It should support us, not consume us. It should help us grow, not make us feel smaller.